Hello there, and welcome to What If, where today we're going to be creating a possible blueprint of what a Dead by Daylight chapter might look like if it was based off of the game Resident Evil 3. Now, we've already done a chapter based off of Resident Evil Code Veronica, and within a few days we're going to see what an actual chapter of Resident Evil is going to look like, so let's see how close we get using aspects of the game series while limiting them exclusive to the title of Resident Evil 3. Location: the Raccoon City Police Department. During the heyday of Raccoon City's expansion, it had become more and more apparent that a well-organized and robust police department was needed. In order to fulfill the city's needs, the RPD purchased the since-closed Raccoon City Art Museum and repurposed it to fit their requirements. Though offices and cells now occupy the areas where paintings and sculptures were proudly displayed, some aspects of the building's museum roots remain, with its large open main hall, winding maze-like structure, and old-fashioned themed locks and puzzles used to open certain areas, ensuring that one could become easily confused if you were unfamiliar with its structure. Still, anyone who visited the RPD building left with its essence thoroughly burned into their mind, which may be why it could be so easily pulled into the realm of the entity. Killer: the Nemesis. The pharmaceutical company Umbrella's ultimate goal with their bioorganic weapons program was to sell its creations to the US Army and later to any who would be willing to purchase their creations. Unfortunately, a major flaw with the virus they used for their primary research was the subpar intelligence that nearly all of their creations suffered from. To be used in a bioweapons program, the creatures would need human, or similar to human, intelligence, so that they could follow orders or be controlled to an extent. The company found some success with their Hunter series, but they struck gold when the Arclay Laboratory set up the Tyrant program, which aimed to create human mutants without the loss of intelligence. While some of their attempts fell by the wayside, they were eventually successful in producing the T-002 Tyrant, and then later, the T-103 Tyrant line. While the T-103 Tyrants were deemed the most successful line in the project, further attempts to modify the line resulted in a new variant when an NE-alpha parasite was implanted into several of the creatures. The further mutation that these creatures had led to something that Umbrella didn't expect. This new Tyrant variation, known as the Nemesis line, showed evidence of self-awareness, ego, and their own unique desires. This became apparent when two of the creatures attempted to escape from the lab in which they were confined. When Umbrella received word that an outbreak of the T-virus had occurred in Raccoon City, Umbrella Europe took advantage of the situation by shipping its BOWs to test them out during the crisis. A small legion of T-103 Tyrants were sent in to eliminate anyone who could pose a threat to the company, and one Nemesis prototype was sent in with one clear goal: hunt down and kill all remaining members of STARS within the city, by any means necessary. The first STARS member that the Nemesis came across was Alpha Team pilot Brad Vickers. The Nemesis either managed to eliminate Brad, or he was killed by other means, depending on the timeline. And with him out of the way, the creature focused solely on the one other STARS member in the city, Jill Valentine. The police officer, however, proved to be more difficult to kill than initially anticipated, and the Nemesis found great difficulty in exterminating Valentine. As the Nemesis hunted her, the two battled all throughout the city, with neither one coming out without scars. Eventually, the battles took its toll on the Nemesis, and its alpha parasite was damaged, reducing its intelligence and causing additional mutations. In this state, its only desire was what was originally implanted into it: destroy STARS. This innate desire led it into a final battle with Jill Valentine, one where she ended up the victor, escaping the city before its inevitable destruction. Shortly after Raccoon City was destroyed, Umbrella's deeds were laid bare, and in the panicked shuffle, the remaining Nemesis prototypes went missing. And to this day, no one knows what happened to them. So for legendary outfits for the Nemesis, there are a few different options. There are the T-103 Tyrants, a similar model to what Mr. X was. We have the modified Ivans, only seen in Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles. And while this isn't a Tyrant model, we also have Bitores Mendez from Resident Evil 4, who, while not a Tyrant as I said, kind of fits a similar stature and role. The Nemesis's power is Seek and Destroy. The Nemesis was created to locate and eliminate specific targets, and in the procedural he can do this by the use of his horrifying tentacles. These tentacles can be used in two different ways. The first will allow the Nemesis to put his hand through the ground, causing the tentacle to come up a short distance away to attack in a small area of effect around that location. He will be able to use this in an area even if a wall separates him from the area in question. The second ability will allow the Nemesis to use his tentacle as a short-range projectile. Hitting a survivor with this projectile will cause the survivor to become infected with the T-virus. The virus will cause the survivor to become sick, hacking and coughing as it consumes them. It will begin to degrade and slow down their motor skills, slowing them from 100% to 75% movement speed at max infection. A survivor can cleanse their infection at one of 3 antiviral stations littered somewhere on the map. Each antiviral station can only be used a maximum of 3 times across all survivors. If a survivor is on death hook and has reached max infection, then they will immediately become a zombie once they are put into the dying status. A zombified survivor will randomly move around the map at 20% movement speed, and will automatically attack survivors if they get too close. An attack from a zombified survivor will infect other survivors with the T-virus, stun them briefly, as well as damage them from healthy to injured. Zombies will not be able to put other survivors in the dying state. Zombies can slowly crawl through windows, and instead of vaulting over pallets, they will crawl underneath them. If a survivor is fully zombified, they are considered an in-game sacrifice. Their first perk is Relentless. Nemesis becomes obsessed with one survivor, and will always be able to see their aura if they are outside of a 64-meter radius of the Nemesis's location. When the obsession is hooked, a different survivor will randomly be selected as the Nemesis's new obsession. If there are 2 survivors or fewer, either off the hook or in the procedural, the perk will deactivate until more survivors are available. Its second perk is Frustration. Being robbed of its target will enrage the Nemesis like nothing else. If the Nemesis hits an injured survivor and they are not put into the dying status, all other survivors are exposed for the next 15 seconds, or until a survivor is put into the dying status. Its final perk is Army of One. The more enemies Nemesis has to face, the more powerful it becomes. If the Nemesis has more than one survivor within an 8-meter radius of him, he will receive a 4% increase to all actions for each survivor within that radius. This includes movement speed, attack cooldown, vaulting, and pickup speed. Survivor. Jill Valentine, the Master of Unlocking. Jill Valentine was born to a French father and a Japanese mother, joining the United States Army at an extremely young age. While in the Army, she received the attention of recruiters for Delta Force, the nation's primary counterterrorism group, despite women's recruiting being all but non-existent at that time. There, she excelled at bomb defusal and lockpicking, giving her the affectionate nickname Master of Unlocking. Valentine was recruited into the Raccoon City's Special Tactics and Rescue Service, known as STARS, by Captain Albert Wesker. Despite keeping her Special Forces training and personal life a secret, she made friends with several STARS members during this time, including Chris Redfield, whom she developed a close friendship and partnership. In the spring and early summer of 1998, Raccoon City was haunted by the deaths of a number of hikers and suburban families, which involved both vicious dog attacks and group cannibalism. With the Raccoon City Police Department at a loss, STARS was ordered into the Arklay Mountains in order to search for a suspected hideout. Bravo Team was sent out on the 23rd of July, and contact was subsequently lost. The following day, Alpha Team was sent out to investigate their disappearance and continue their investigation. The resulting investigation led to Valentine and the surviving members of STARS to learn that the multinational pharmaceutical company Umbrella was engaging in illegal biological research, which resulted in the leak of their experimental virus, the T-virus, which caused a biohazardous outbreak that allowed many creatures to escape from confinement. Once back in Raccoon City, the remaining STARS members' request for a full-scale investigation of Umbrella's activities was denied by their superior chief of police, Brian Irons. With no support from the American government, the members of STARS decided that they would travel to Europe on their own to investigate Umbrella themselves. Valentine stayed in Raccoon City to investigate the whereabouts of Umbrella's underground facility along with pilot Brad Vickers before joining her comrades in Europe. However, her investigation was slow going, and was stalled out not only by Chief Irons suspending her from the force and ordering her to remain at home, but her apartment seemingly being under constant surveillance. 2 months after the mansion incident, however, the investigation was ruined when Raccoon City's water supply was contaminated with the T-virus, causing thousands to mutate into zombies. Umbrella took full advantage of the situation and sent in experimental BOWs to test them out on the survivors. With the city in chaos, Valentine had no choice but to try to escape on her own while avoiding those creatures loose within Raccoon City, including dodging the ever-present threat of the Nemesis. While she eventually defeated her pursuer and escaped Raccoon City, she always felt that she lost something when she saw Raccoon City go up in smoke, almost as if a small part of her was taken, and that she would never get it back. For legendary outfits, there is no shortage to choose from. Claire Redfield, Rebecca Chambers, Sheva Alomar, all of them are iconic female leads in the series. You've also got lesser-known ones like Cindy Lennox, Moira Burton, or Zoe Baker, who could also be fun additions. But there's absolutely no one else that anyone would want to see in this game. Nope, absolutely no one at all.
You want stars? I'll give you stars!
Jill's first perk is Lockpick. Jill isn't called the Master of Unlocking without reason. With Lockpick, Jill can start to open the exit gates at any point in the match, even if they aren't powered. If she is the only survivor alive, it will still take the normal 30 seconds to open the door. For each additional survivor alive, this time is increased tenfold. So for instance, with 2 survivors alive, it will take 5 minutes to open the gate. With 3, it will take 50 minutes. If all 4 survivors are alive, it will take over 8 hours to get that gate open. With that in mind, Jill will not be affected by any perks that would normally speed up or slow down the amount of time it would take to open the gate if it isn't powered. Any progress made on opening the gates with Lockpick will remain should Jill have to leave it at any point. Jill's second perk is Special Tactics. Jill's special training allows her to do quick, acrobatic feats that can throw her opponents off guard. If Jill fast vaults through a window, she will have the opportunity to fast vault back through that same window. This second vault will not create the loud noise notification normally created when vaulting. Jill's final perk is Headstrong. Jill isn't one to go down without a fight. If Jill is next to a fallen pallet or a breakable wall, she can break it herself with the use of the action button. After a short charge up, she will barge through the obstacle, destroying it and stunning the killer for up to 5 seconds if they are within a certain distance of the barrier. Successfully stunning the killer will put the perk on cooldown for 60 seconds. And that's it for our What If episode for Resident Evil 3. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see in a couple days how close my predictions are. They're probably going to be really far off. If you like this video, do the normal YouTube roundup of like, comment, subscribe, blah blah blah. You've heard this before. If you'd also like to support me in a way that YouTube doesn't, you can do so directly by using my Patreon link down below. This will also help increase the amount of content I create, so consider it if you would like more of this content. Special thanks again to Jack Freeman for supporting me as always. And with that said, I thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Say goodbye, hearty frost from my eye. If you leave me, be sure you miss me. If you fly, you lose something in the sky.
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich!